down on the corner. I'm also working with the Nazarene, Westdale Nazarene Church on this development project, and I'll just introduce a few people. This is Pastor Sean. Pastor Sean is the pastor here at the church. This is David Neiman. He's a partner on the project. He's also the architect on the project. This is Pastor Terry. Pastor Terry is also a pastor here at the church. And then I'd just like to introduce Cindy. This is Cindy Barker.
Turn around so I'm not cross-legged weird.
She is very involved in the community. She does all kinds of great things. I think you're the public outreach. Or
community information for the Morgan Community Association.
Yes. So we're everybody here in the kind of the Morgan Junction area. We're all part of the Morgan Community Association. It's a great organization, and there's numerous people from David Neiman Architects and Part Development here, and so we're all just really excited that we can engage with the community here and just talk a little bit about the project, and also be here to listen and hear what the community has to say, and also show we had a meeting about 2 months ago and show the community that we've been listening and we've taken comments that we've heard to date and we've incorporated into the project. So with that being said, I'll turn everything over here to David Neiman to go through and give us a presentation on where we're at with the project.
Crowd looks pretty familiar. I want to just, has anyone not seen this project at all? Has anyone seen it for the first time today? Okay, you've had a chance to see some of the stuff that's out there either on the Westdale blog or on the Mocha email. So, just for the sake for folks who haven't seen it too much of the project before, the 2-minute summary of the project is that we, myself and Joe, in Westdale Nazarene Church have formed an LLC to explore the idea of developing 6 townhouses on the community green over here. The express purpose of the project is that the Westdale Nazarene Church needs to raise money in order to repair their facilities. So as partners in the project, they would share the profits of it and generate enough to fund the renovation of this facility and improvements to the community green that can be shared by the community at large. Gary, do you want to say any more about that? Or its context? Or it's been said.
That is the context, yes.
So we've had a couple of sort of engagements here at the church to sort of show people what we've done. Mostly we've been sharing around the site plan and a cross-section. Just talking in broad, general terms about the project, and we've reported back to the folks at the Morgan Junction Association to just kind of share with the community what we've heard. And I just wanted to reiterate some of the things that have been kind of passed back and forth and some of the things that we've been responding to. So in the previous meetings we've had, we've heard a lot of support from the community about wanting to value the church as an institution, want to help them to survive here and help them stay in their home. That there was some concern about the ability to save the trees, and people were glad to hear that we were saving them, but also wanted to hear more information about make sure that our intention that you could build in those areas and that the trees wouldn't be harmed by, would be validated by a qualified arborist and so forth. People were glad that we were maintaining open space in the park, but wanted to see more detail about how the character of the park and the character of the homes, would the park really feel like it was open to the public, or would it just feel like the front yard of private homes? How would privacy be maintained for people in there, and how would safety be maintained at night around homes? There was people were glad that the projects were being parked at a ratio of 2 cars per townhouse, and people were glad that they were being parked at a ratio that's sort of above what is typical for that. Some concerns about the loss of an existing reservoir of parking that people have been using, that would then become parking for the townhouses. And that, realizing I left it quicker than my coat.
Thank you.
Terry, actually, Terry does that, and I search.
And there are lots of cookies, water, coffee. Yes. If anybody wants to use.
Okay, so I'm gonna, Terry's gonna set that up. I'm gonna take you through, it's a pretty short presentation, but we're basically gonna look, we've only seen the project in two dimensions, and we've talked broadly about some of the ideas that are involved in it. So I'm gonna take you through the first images of it. You may have seen the video on the blog or on Cairo today. But for the sake of drama, we'll just pretend that there's an avail here. And I'll take you through some of the detail, probably about a 10-minute presentation. We're a small group. If I said something that's confusing, you just stop me and we can be informal about this. But otherwise, we'll just kind of go to the end and then open up for questions and discuss. So this is the image of the project. You've probably all seen in one variety or another. I probably don't have to explain too much about where we are. This is we're sitting here in the church, and there's the church green that we're talking about. So just the broad context, the church, this is the existing reservoir parking that the church uses for every day. This is the alley behind the community green in here, and then the six proposed new townhouses along the back by the alley. This is the parsonage house right over here. We propose that the community park remain as an open green. The green circles are the existing exceptional trees to be preserved, and then this yellow circle here showing a new playground to be designed by a landscape architect. This is kind of a placeholder we've been up for just have something there. Zooming in a little bit more detail, you can see the six townhouses over by the alley. The green circles are the exceptional trees. The brown circles in there, it's a little complicated to explain, but essentially the park is right now is about a 6-foot fall and grade from the sidewalk down to the homes. We're going to fill all that to basically level the whole thing out, make it more accessible. And what that'll do is it'll take the garage level of the homes and it'll bury it. So when you look at the homes from across 42nd, they'll be 2 stories tall, and the park will be level and accessible. Now you can't fill at the base of an existing tree in the root column in there. And so what those brown circles are representing is there's basically a retaining wall where the soil goes down to its original level, and then there's a deck across that kind of reestablishes grade, so you can walk smoothly around and across the trees. So 6 townhouses in here, off in the corner, but the trees get kind of close to the townhouses. We're making the townhouses a little bit smaller, leaving a little bit more room for that room color. This plan has been, we give this to our project arborist. He's going to report back to us. I'll give it in my, I'll walk it down the table if anyone wants to read it. And I can, for anyone who wants to study it, we're happy to make that. Parking is always a concern, has been a concern of Morgan Junction from the time of the neighborhood planning and the impact of new development on existing parking. The existing parking for the church is unchanged, and then we're providing 12 enclosed garage parking spaces for the 6 townhouses along the alley. This is a cross section from the alley side on the left, or the second on the right. Across the top, you can kind of see the whole context, the size of the new development. This is, you can sort of see how the park's been leveled out, and area is the lowest level of the development. That's the parsonage for scale, houses across the street. When you zoom in, you can see kind of how the stack works. There's a garage level. Down low, there's a little bit of extra space. This is kind of a home office or extra room. Down there, all of the public areas of the house are at the living level, where they can kind of look out on the park, eyes on the park. There's no bedrooms at that level. It's kitchen, living, dining, powder pantry, all the open functions of the house, and all of the public rooms. And then bedrooms are upstairs. All of the units are 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms upstairs. We're kind of hoping to get a third up there, but just the floor plates aren't quite big enough. And so we've developed this loft idea, so the extra bedroom can have access to a loft, make it so that you've got a larger family, it's easier to share up the bedroom with a loft. We talked a little bit at previous meetings about the relationship with the park and the housing, making a clear distinction between what's sort of yours, mine, and ours, and how those distinctions are really important for people to be able to share those comfortably. So just to kind of zoom in detail, the housing's over here. It's porch that provides a little shadow, a definition of the porch area, which is level with the home, and then you step down a couple feet to a semi-private yard. But it's basically 3 steps down. Semi-private yard, it has a little retaining wall, a little fence. They're not there they're not there to keep in dogs or keep out people. They're there as visual cues. These are physical delineations between a private space and a semi-private space.
How deep is that semi-private yard?
About 8 feet here.
8 feet?
Yeah, so it's about the portion.
Lot line?
Well, there's no lot line per se. So it's all one lot. But I think what you're getting at is like, this is the definition of the public realm becomes the private realm. So
The people who buy these houses, they buy a specific piece of land, where the edge of the lot that they're buying.
the technical question, I don't know the answer to. So the townhouses are divided into unit lots, but where you draw the boundary is a little bit down the road. I don't know the answer.
You mean the lot in line into the park side?
Yeah.
If you
the
look at
front edge of the lot.
look at this drawing, because I think it shows the lot.
Right now, the lots just go from the alley to the street. And when the units get sold, there will be a definition of what the unit lot is. That's like the person's lot. Whether or not it's drawn tightly around the house, or whether or not it goes out to the street, and then there's an easement that allows public use of the lot. So the technical
Who
details,
owns
we
the
don't know.
community park?
The community park would stay the property of the church.
Okay.
And this is, actually, you know what I'm gonna, at the very end, I'm gonna talk about some of the process, because I think it's good, we'll get to that. Because I'll get into the weeds too much here, but
So
I will get to that.
So the rezone will rezone all the property, not just the property underlying the townhomes.
We don't know.
Okay.
But let me get to that at the
Okay.
very, because it's, well, I'll get it. We'll go into the weeds real quick. So, anyways, I'm sorry, definitions, the private porch, the semi-private yard, and stepping again down to the level of the community park, little pathway again creates a definition, planting border, further definition. So at every stage, we're kind of giving visual cues and the physical environment of the gradations between what's in here, which is clearly everybody's, and what's in here, which is clearly mine. And people, whether or not they feel like being completely in the public realm or not, can sort of choose where to occupy their homes. And people that are in the public realm can feel like there's a clear definition between where your thing stops and where our thing begins. So floor plans are a little hard to read at this level, but basically down low, the garages, and then sort of the extra room, we're thinking is probably best used as a home office, a little bit, could be kind of a guest area, third bedroom. The living level, these are all the open areas, kitchen in the back, dining room in the middle, living room in the front, off to the side are all the small things like stairs and pantries and powder rooms.
Bathroom on the bottom?
That is a bathroom. Up at the bedroom level, we have 2 bedrooms, a master and a kid's bedroom, 2 bathrooms, one for the master, one for the kids, and then the loft tucked up there into the gable to give a little extra space for the kids. The plans are going to be similar for all 3 of the units. They'll be related, but not hugely different. The massings of the buildings, we want these to be kind of like cousins. We don't want them to be wildly different one from another, but we don't want them to be the same. So all of the projects have some similar elements. They all have porches that face the street. They all are going to have a similar palette of materials. We'll probably use different colors. They're all going to have familiar residential forms, but each one of them will have a different variation on roof form and some of the subtle details of the massing. From the back, you can kind of see a similar idea going in on the alley side, and then just a long section across the site. You can kind of see the scale of the townhouses, the existing townhouses, the new development along the alley, the scale of the parsonage of the church, and then the houses across the one thing we kind of wanted to talk about tonight, this, these look awfully finished because we have to do something for the video. We did them in some bold colors so we could do well in the video, but we're not at that stage yet of the project. And one of the things we were talking about is color and material. We got to get some reaction from people about how they felt about it. So, but I just wanted to kind of outline kind of 3 basic ideas about how we might do the colors and then talk about some of the basic project materials. So one color scheme we'll be talking about is what I call the top-bottom idea. We have kind of a darker base and a lighter top, two different colors, complementary earth tones. The top is usually a richer texture, sometimes a natural material, sometimes just finer ingrained and visual texture. Another scheme that we've used in the past is where each house has a real vibrant color to give its own identity. That's kind of what we've rendered in the video. And then third one, which is just kind of have each one be its own color, but sort of stepping back and have it be a little bit more background, hands and toes and light solid colors. Each one of them has its own validity. Each one of them is kind of compatible with vernacular residential architecture. And we're not there yet, but we wanted to kind of just say this is sort of the range of ideas we're thinking about and see if you guys have reactions or thoughts around it. And then just the basic palette of materials. We're talking about palette of materials that's familiar to domestic architecture. This is like vernacular domestic architecture. It's common to the neighborhood, and people recognize it as being, these are single-family homes. They don't feel like townhouses. They don't feel like multi-family structures. They feel like single-family homes. So double-hung windows, white trim, probably matching colors for columns and fascias and eaves and porches and porch soffits and fences constructed out of wood, painted lighter white trim color, accent colors on the siding to punch and contrast with the trims, and then a palette of materials that probably talking about doing shaker shingle up high, or the special materials that you see that gives a little extra visual texture, and then down low, either board and bath or lap things that are very familiar in single family homes. So these images kind of give you a sense of the flavor that we're aiming towards. And then lastly, we just wanted to do a little nighttime render of the project and talk about what the park should feel like at night and how we're going to sort of deal with lighting and safety and glare issues. So the homes themselves, they're lit from within, they'll take care of themselves to a certain extent. It's important that the porches, we want to get those porches well lit because they'll actually provide a good surface to bounce light off and get light into the areas or near to the homes. The strategy for that is we want lighting up in the soffits of the porches so we can get a good amount of light but not have it be so you can't see the actual light source. So you don't want to see glare across the street or the lights up there in the recess of the porch. And then in the park itself, we're talking about using a combination of bollard lighting and stake lighting. The idea is you want distributed low level of light. You don't want a few big light fixtures with a lot of glare and darkened light spots. You want kind of a low level of light where you can see everything well enough to get facial recognition, but not enough that you've got light spillage and glare problems with neighbors. So bollards like this kind of let a little light lead up and mostly guide the light down and light the walking surfaces. And then the trees, what we're going to do is we're going to need to limb those up a little bit, 50 or 20 feet up so you can see under them, so you have good sight lines, and that'll allow us to put some stake lights to light up the tree and make sure that the spaces under the canopies are lit well and they don't feel dark and foreboding. They're psychological. And with that, I think that's about all we haven't shown the video. I'm just going to play the video real quick. Wander over here. So this is a video that you may have been sent around by either West Seattle Blog or by the Morgan Junction Association. Are we playing? So we're just going to kind of spin around with an aerial view of the whole walk along the street or walk through the park. And then pull back. This is the walk down 42nd. Those squares in the foreground are the kind of community gardening plots we talked about at an earlier meeting. You can see the playground again, not a design, just a placeholder for future actual design. Well, again, in the past, you can see the little wood decks around the tree holes. Get a good sense of what those porches and semi-private yards are like. And then just go back and see the whole project. So before I go to questions, I just want to kind of talk about the big process. If anyone saw the Cairo TV report today, one of the things that was said was that we were a few months away from getting our zoning changes, something like that. It's not true, and so I wanted to kind of step back and talk about the whole process, what we're going to do over the next couple of months, and then what's going to happen over the long, sweet process. So right now, kind of March and April, our goal is we're going to show this tonight. We're going to take feedback. You know, to the extent that people like stuff, that's great. To the extent that people have concerns, we're going to go back to the drawing board and try to address those concerns. And we'll iterate that until we get a level of comfort that people understand the project and they feel, we get a sense from people that they feel we're doing a good job. And then that's all going forward to look forward to an April 16th meeting that we're going to have with the Morgan Junction Association. That will be, we will present the project with Morgan Junction, and membership will be asked to vote on the project whether or not they endorse it. The purpose of the endorsement is that in May, we're going to submit a request to the City Council for a comprehensive plan amendment to the future land use plan of Morgan Junction that would take this plot of land and designate it as having that the neighborhood has endorsed that the future land use of this thing can be rezoned to LR1. So that's the thing that we're going for is for it to be reflected in the comp plan that the neighborhood has said we think this is a good idea. So an endorsement from the Morgan Junction Association and other informal ones that we may that if people in the neighborhood are willing to offer, they would be helpful. The City Council would be looking for that to say, does the community endorse this idea? Because it's not reflected in the neighborhood plan. The neighborhood plan says you shall not rezone single family. That is, and unless that changes, the project will not go forward. So essentially, the project will not happen unless the neighborhood decides that they want it to happen and they want to say yes to it.
So they currently zone single family 5,000?
Yes.
And that's at the alley line?
Yes, the alley transitions from single family 5,000 to LR. So
What are you looking to rezone to?
LR, the least, the lowest designation of one place.
And so you don't know if it's this land under the church, the land under the park, or just the land under the buildings? You said lot, and I'm not sure what you meant.
I think that part of it's a technical question, so I'm going to... It's sometimes an easier thing if you draw a corner of the if we drew a line that said from that boundary to the corner, that this corner is endorsed as being a valid place to rezone. That's actually a little easier to get a yes to than a spot slice of a specific lot. So I need to present some language, show it to the folks at central staff. I've offered to show it to Deb. She was very curious to see it. But basically, figure out how to compose that so that it's most palatable to people in general and approvable by the council. Just gotta.
I will say, even if it's not approved,
Yeah.
I don't know, right? You can still go through the process, and council can still, based on like the parishioners they can still approve it.
We have been told that, that we're welcome to do it, but it won't happen.
Okay.
So I mean, it's like you're welcome to ask.
You never know what they're going to say. So yeah.
So
So the entire corner parcel wouldn't be rezoned low rise one?
So the first step is a change in the comp plan that says that this is a legitimate place to ask for it. The next step is to actually go through the rezone process. So the rezone process is what they call the contract rezone, where you ask for a rezone of the land in exchange for some demonstrable public good. So in our case, we'll be saying, we'd like to change this from single family 5,000 to LR1. The demonstrable public good is we will assign it's called a PUDA, which I can't remember what a PUDA stands for. It's a public use declaration.
Yeah,
something.
it encumbers your property.
Thank you. That says in perpetuity, that land is now open for public use in exchange for the reason. So
How
that's
about the property that the church is sitting on?
again, that's one of those things. We would
My
craft.
only question is whether the entire parcel gets zoned for LR1, and then 20, 30 years down the road,
So the contract rezone is proposal specific. So that would be easy to say it only applies to these
the
parcels.
townhouse is that. You could in the future
The
sell off the land
the
that the
comp
church
plan
is on
amendment,
and
yeah,
create whatever works in the LR zoning at that time.
Ah,
exactly. The
That-
comp plan amendment, I'm not sure if it's possible to limit it to just, it may have to go to the corner just to be a legitimate contract.
see, that's why we didn't understand why you were going to go comp plan, because we're so used to, this would have been an easy contract rezone.
We began, and we took it, we did the sort of preliminary conferencing with the city, and they basically said, basically, if this is, because the Morgan Junction goals say no single-family zone, so no single-family land will be rezoned unless it's explicitly approved in the neighborhood plan. It's game over.
Okay.
You can do anything you want, guys, but it's game over. Start. So,
Now I
In fairness,
understand.
there's a secondary motive for the church, and that is we're part of a larger community. We want to offer something that we believe enhances the whole. That means we need input from the whole too.
Yeah. Hey, we just went, wow, this seems like a really difficult process for you, instead of just going the easy route. We didn't know why.
We began with a simpler idea and then realized that
Gotcha.
it just couldn't happen. So the project has a pretty long arc. It'll be in a year. So May 2014, we submit a request for a comp plan amendment. We won't get an answer for that until May of 2015. And if that does happen, then we go forward with a contract rezone. And the contract rezone will have an associated design review process that goes along with that. And so there's a lot of public engagement that will happen.
I'm so sorry, but that just doesn't make any sense. Once the land use map is changed under a contract rezone, you don't need to go back under the comp plan rezone.
Yeah.
You're LR1. You can do anything with your property that you want that meets LR1. So you shouldn't have to go back for a contract rezone. I think these guys are making you do more work than you need to work.
If it turns out to be the case, I'd be happy. But as it was explained to me, and I confess that this is not the end of the pond that I play in all day, is that the comp plan changes a future land use. It designates it as a valid future action that one can rezone, but it doesn't rezone it. So, anyways, we've gone into the weeds on that one, but that's kind of the long arc that we're looking at. It's not going to resolve in a few months. It's not going to resolve in 12 months. It's going to be over the next 18 to 24 months.
Will you be able to define what the lot size is?
The actual lot definition would happen probably as part of the contract rezone, as part of the writing of the whatever that's in the public use declaration.
I think the intent is to make them as small as possible and still be able to build the structures that we want to build. It's not to make the lots any larger than necessary. So in LR1, there's ratios, and it's typically 1.1 floor area ratio for land, and so we're going to make those as small as they're going to be in order to get the size and units there. So they won't be terribly large. And as David mentioned, I mean, the idea is that really the only private space belonging to those units is the porch and the transitional space, and then you've got the public walkways. So
That's what says to me that these are wind up being rental units rather than single homes being owned by their owners. In fact, if they don't have a land or yard of their own, they're going to be rental units. And that's why I object to it.
They'll have land because they're down. They'll have land that's in front.
How much is that land going to be?
It looks like about 8 feet on that map.
That sounds like a rental unit. If I bought my house today, I wouldn't be buying it with an 8-foot front yard.
families that engage in the park. We haven't made any commitments, but we have even discussed putting covenants on the deeds saying that they can't be rental units. We haven't committed to doing anything, but that is certainly on the table. And the intent is not that we're building 6 apartments back there. That's not the intent at all. The intent is certainly that we're building 6 housing units for families that get sold to families that are going to occupy those units and live there. And I mean, I know as a neighbor and someone that lives in the community, that is our end goal. And so you bring up a valid point, though. There are certainly communities that we see go up, that townhouse communities that get sold and they get rented. I'm developing 16 townhouse units this year. We don't have any of those units. We're in the process of selling them. We don't have any of those units that we know of that are going to be rented out. They're all going to be owner occupied. But it's a valid concern, and we've definitely heard it. And we do have some things, like I said, we can do deed restrictions. We can do some other things to try to encourage owner occupancy. So I appreciate that comment.
The other thing I think about is that I agree with you. Like, personally, I'm not a townhouse purchaser because I want a big yard. That's actually what agrees with me on that. I have no yard. And so I think that I have to appreciate that. Though I am not a buyer that would be interested in a townhouse because I want a yard, because I like to garden, I like the space for my kids to play, that I think typically someone who's purchasing a condo or a townhouse actually sees that potentially as a benefit. They want a low maintenance lot. They don't want to have the work of a big yard. And so it's was that
Maintenance free.
maintenance free, right? It's the typical. I mean, I actually think about my parents who are talking about retiring in a few years, and their goal is to find a place that's close to their grandchildren, where they have no maintenance, so they can spend their summers in Alaska where they live, where they love, and they have permit, you know, and they want a place that is really easy to maintain as they get older and don't want to have to bounce around and stuff. And so I think I just appreciate, like, probably these are we only need 6 buyers. It's a relatively small number for a unique. You're not going to attract someone who wants a single family home with a yard, a large yard. That's not your buyer because it's private. And we don't only need residential homes as rentals, but in the Seattle market, you have to have a lot of cash on hand to make it even affordable to buy a new construction project and then use it as a rental. Like most of the single family houses that are often used as rentals have been purchased a long time ago. They're paid off. But the other thing is, like, even living in a neighborhood that has all single family homes, there's nothing that prevents anyone who has, single family home on a big lot from buying it and then moving out anytime and renting.
Sure, that's what everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably plenty of arguments.
Single family home on a big lot. I don't want to see small houses, all crammed together. I think it changes the character of the neighborhood. There are no rental units or small houses or how many blocks in either direction beside the house. I just don't think it's appropriate. They want to sell those 2 lots, and that's when they put a big house on it. Either that, I don't care. But I just don't think these are appropriate for this neighborhood.
My concern as someone that also lives in the neighborhood is that, I really value the presence of the church here. And unfortunately, there's not enough value in the land for those 2 lots to support the church here. So I think what we're looking at is a choice of finding a way to sustain the community here or lose all of it. And my fear in that losing all of it is that potentially it could go to an even bigger development and we have even less control over it because it's a huge lot at that point.
It'd be 5 houses. Okay, so now you have 5 houses. That's all right. 5 houses on 5 lots connected to the character of the neighborhood. I don't like that.
I think though that my opinion is it could potentially be more than that. Or it could potentially, with the loss of this building,
burying it.
Yeah. Good question. Okay. We don't have a great drawing of it, but I have a little, it shows up a little bit in this elevation. So right over here, you can kind of see what one of the tree holes looks like. So there's going to be, by the time you get to the tree, there's going to be about 4 to 5 feet of fill. And you have to create basically a retaining wall, circular retaining wall around the root column. So you have to stay kind of 15-foot diameter clear. And so that is from the original soil level ultimates, kind of, the central orbits and stay disturbed, they don't get suffocated. And then you basically have to build a dam at that level that closes the gap.
So will there be a retaining wall on the south property line, the adjacent property line?
No, it doesn't go, let's go to the site. It doesn't go that far out. Oh, I see, I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, there wouldn't be exactly, you have to
So they
retain.
potentially have a 4 or 5 foot high wall property line? if they-
Right, you'll be able to see over it.
Exactly. We're gonna have to stop retaining at some point there. So
Right.
you either have to have a wall or a series of terraces.
What will you do to kind of protect the character of an adjacent lot with the playground and a 5 foot high retaining wall at the alley side?
Yeah, well, it's not gonna, I would say that probably it's there.
Right,
And it'd be
right.
more thoughtful about it. I think.
But they're also going to get a playground adjacent to it.
Yeah, well, the playground is sort of sheltered underneath the tree and fenced. We have the neighbor here.
I don't believe Gary is here tonight.
He stopped by today and asked, because he is very much in favor of the project and just asked me how it's going. He didn't know about the meeting, he was going to try and make it.
That's a rental unit. He's already expressed interest in joining on to this project and also developing that project.
But I mean, to your point, I think this is the kind of, we have the time.
Yeah, well, I understand you don't have a landscape architect on board. I mean, you may look at it and decide that the playground's better up by the church side of it. As you look at the entire plan, you decide.
True, very true. And I think issues like this, we'll address them to the extent that there's a real person attached to it with a real concern. If someone comes to us and says, "I don't like that. I'd like you to deal with it differently," then we'll respond to it. But at a certain point, we don't have to deal with it as a theoretical. We have a real person, and we can have a real conversation with them.
I'm ready to watch the movie that shows us the change in the church.
So am I. That would be phase C.
Oh, see, how are you going to get our support without this thing? All right, here's our contract. As soon as we get money in the door, we're going to paint that guy. And then we're going to do the plumbing. I think we should have a plan laid out so we know that the 800,000 isn't going to go into other people's bank accounts. But when is it going to happen? We've lived here for 7 years, and this thing just keeps getting worse. We find more shingles in the yard. Well, actually, that's finally stopped because you did fix the roof. The shingles off the side. Let's have a plan.
What is the plan for the church?
Well,
We've talked to the church. We've done some preliminary assessments. I think one of the first things that needs to be done is the siding needs to be addressed. It's lead-based paint. That's not good. And new regulations went into effect within the past year about lead-based paint. So it's not as simple as just going and scraping the paint off. The siding is going to have to be removed in its entirety and put new siding back up. It's the best way to comply with the lead-based guidelines, and then repaint it in something similar fashion. Some of the other major issues here, there's plumbing, electrical, and heating issues. And the intent is that as soon as the funds are coming in, the intent of the church is to use those funds to do the improvements. And we've got an in-house general contracting company. We have, in the LLC agreement, we have said we will make ourselves available to do that work on behalf of the church if they want. We're even willing to facilitate doing some of it on a volunteer basis and hiring some of it out. David Neiman, as part of the agreement as well, has offered to do the architectural design services outside of the church and the rehab, just to make sure that it fits in with the fabric of the project. And this is very much at the forefront of our minds. And this is the whole reason why we're doing the project. So the church definitely wants to do this as soon as the money comes in the door. There's not going to be any waiting. There's no other uses for this money.
That's what we want to see on paper.
Yeah, and I don't know how, and I think we could certainly produce a document that I don't think there's any issue that we could get the document produced. So.
And you do promise to sell everyone.
We promise to what?
Sell everyone.
Not to keep the free run.
Right.
Oh,
Okay, so you guys won't even be members of the homeowners association. You won't own any part of that ground.
We typically don't set up our projects with homeowners associations. There's a couple ways to do it. We typically, in the short planning process, we typically kind of put all the guiding rules and principles right on the survey that gets recorded. Sometimes some developers do set up homeowner associations. In rare cases, we will set them up for extenuating circumstances. In this case, I wouldn't foresee an actual homeowners association. We kind of put the rules of the road right in the survey. The church is going to maintain and own the community park, so that will be the piece right there. But I hear what you're saying. It's what is the plan? How are we going to get the repairs addressed? How soon will they be addressed? We can certainly produce a document that outlines that.
I think that will help in
Yeah.
community support.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, we love your plan. This is why we're here.
Yeah.
Get this thing fixed.
So, I mean, partly is that I hear you saying that you want to, it's not so much not commitment to the church, I think that's sort of given that you're going to be here, but you want to see a concrete description of the things that you're going to do.
Yeah, we sell the first one, we get a picture. And we sell the second one, what's going to happen? Or, I don't know.
What is the scope of the renovation?
There you go.
Yeah.
So it looks like, and I know this is just preliminary for the lot line, but it looks like the largest tree would be potentially platted with the 5 and 6 unit. Is there going to be some sort of protection that the homeowner then cannot take the tree down?
The tree regulations, it's interesting. The tree regulations in the city of Seattle are kind of, well, it's an exceptional tree, so no one actually has the right to take down an exceptional tree.
Yeah, city won't.
City regulations, yeah.
People do amazing things in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
That's an interesting detail. I think technically it's going to end up, it's going to fall on someone's unit lot. There's going to be a lot of people's unit lot are going to have common easements across them for maintenance and walk on the paths and so forth. And there's going to have to be something in the sort of the CC&Rs or the joint maintenance agreement that talks about those things.
And then can I just also ask what the setback is?
I think we are 6 or 7 feet off now. I think 6.
6 inches?
6 feet. So it's essentially the minimum setback that you can be on the alley and still stay clear of power lines and have required maneuvering. The idea is to get the units as far that way as possible so you can preserve most of the park.
I think regarding the painting on the houses, I mean, I've noticed like down on Highland Park and down in Avalon, the buildings of Highland Park down in Avalon, there's some new condos coming up. They have the different paint colors and different floor levels. It seems to come across as a bit commercial or a bit corporate. And so I think just in keeping with the neighborhood, it seems like it'd be nice to have those houses be one color, just to be consistent.
That's right. If you drive down the street and look at the houses and what color they are, and try to make it look like the other houses on this.
I thought the houses that you had in the pocket community picture, the light green and the sage, seemed quite more like the neighborhood compared to the second and third options you presented. So,
This one? Those are literally cut and paste off the website of, oh, we gotta get something to put on the bill. So those are just a placeholder. The project, so part of the funds go to the park, and that'll actually have the next big architect attached to it, proper design.
With the gable house, or with the gable roof, how high are the houses?
So right, let's see. So right there,
Yep.
I'm gonna say it's about 31, 32 feet, like that was higher.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number.
So that's 9 feet, that's 19 feet, that's 27 feet. Yeah, that's right around 31, 32. So the height limit for the area is right around there, and there's a bonus for slope, which gets you up.
It's measured from 42nd, not the alley, right?
The height.
Yeah.
Height is measured from, you measure existing grade around the footprint of the existing building. So you take basically the midpoints of the walls around the existing grade, and you average those, and then lift that 30 feet, and that's the height limit. So the existing grade is sort of right here, and right here, and right here. Take the average of those points, and you lift it up. It's kind of right in there.
The grade before you fill it or after you fill it?
The height limit is based on existing grades. So
Natural grade.
What you do with fill is okay.
Yep.
Again, your time frame from today to completion? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
This is the question that Joe always asks me. So we're at least, we're a year, let's call it 14 months from getting a yes or no from the city council about the comprehensive plan amendment. From there, it's probably an 18-month process to get a building permit. So we're about 2.5 years. The building permit, 6 to 8 months to build. So, call it 3 years.
And then another year to fix the church, so 4 years.
Oh, no, I think we're talking that guy over there, get it done before the house is even built.
Can you work on it?
All right.
Like 4 years, start to
That sounds
Just
good.
a question about drainage. I'm on the other side of the alley, and so we downgrade. So what's the effect of raising that grade over there? Is that gonna, I guess I'm just concerned that
Or
they
you'll have less water, because they'll keep all the water in the park.
push it this way?
Yeah.
Certainly, you're probably gonna still, it's a good question. At some point, you gotta pick which direction you're draining. So, and flat areas are never flat. They're 2% going one way or the other. What I would guess is that probably half of the park will drain towards 42nd and half will drain directly out, something like that. It's gonna be relatively flat. You're not gonna see a lot of movement of surface water. You're gonna see a lot of infiltration.
I guess what my concern is just being right behind those houses where there was gravel. Now it's going to come right off the roofs and into the alley.
So what we'll be required to do, the city, that they implemented a thing called green stormwater infrastructure that basically requires handling of all the impervious surface, all of the decks, all of the roofs, all that. We're required to handle it all on the site. Marine facilities that either infiltrate it or clean it and evaporate it, and then discharge it into the wastewater system. So nothing's allowed to surface drain from any of the new impervious surface. It's a pretty rigorous system.
Who else? So the city's not going to own the park. They probably don't want to own the park. And so that'll probably be some sort of you'll have some, what's that called? You have a pot of money that has to sit and it continues to feed the lawnmower. So they're, yeah. They'll probably will see how it's going to be maintained in the next administration.
good for us to do it, it'd be good to say it out loud.
I told you.
And the church has no interest in buying the meetings.
No.
Church.
It's actually in the LLC documents that we're going to, we call merchant develop. So all the units get built, all the units get sold. That's the way that it's all set up. And then the funds goes back to the church to be used for the renovation. So,
In fact, the first responsibility the church has, as part of our agreement with our partners and the LLC commitment, is to use appropriate architectural services to develop the park so that it can be maintained. Because that is the first reason we're going this route as opposed to looking at a total sell. And unfortunately, Heather's correct. We looked, we get offers on the park every year. I mean, and we've always said no. And the reason we've said no is because it's a green space. So that is a primary task here at Gold here. And I assure you, getting to the outside of this building first will be a priority.
and just to let everybody know what the actual alternative is for this site is it's not financially viable for the church to sell just the parkland. It would all get sold. And what actually you can do here is, even though it's 5 lots, they've got this rule called the 75-80 rule in the city of Seattle. You're allowed to rezone your property without having to go through any of this process in lots that are up to 70 or up to 75% of the single family 5,000. Your lot can be only only has to be 75% of that size, and then 80% of the average lots around the street. So in effect, that would actually allow 6 lots on the site instead of 5 without a public process. It's the same process we go through doing our short plats. And many of you may have heard they actually have something called the accessory dwelling unit in Seattle now. So you could build 6 very large houses here, and that's what a developer would do. And plus they would build most likely 6 accessory dwelling units behind the houses. So you'd actually end up potentially with 12 structures. And those 6 smaller accessory dwelling units can be rented out if you have an owner occupant in the house. So you could essentially end up with 6 large houses, 6 small ADUs, 6 owners, but then also 6 renters. So you could end up with a lot more building here. What's that?
With no requirement for parking.
I'm not sure what the parking requirement is. It might be 1 or 2.
No, they're in the urban village, and they're near frequent transit service, so that equals
right.
no parking.
0 parking. Good. That's actually.
I don't think so. Single family, it is
No,
required
that would
to
be-
have 1 parking for the house, 1 parking for the ADU.
Yes, that's
It is
true.
required to
That
have
is
one
correct.
parking
I was
spots.
I was thinking you were rezoned already.
So two parking spots. So you'd end up with essentially you'd have the same number of parking that we're proposing, but you'd get 12 structures. So it could be a massive development here, and actually a lot more than what we're looking at. More rental units, more houses. It could look a lot different than what we're proposing. I certainly take to heart, and we've heard this about renting versus ownership. It is not our intent to build rental units. That's something we'll definitely address and ponder more, and we have a variety of different ways to address that. First and foremost, we will be selling them ourselves, so we can be selective on who those buyers are. Second, we can put in restrictions on deeds. We can do all kinds of things. We have thrown that out. I mean, it is not our intent to sell rental housing. And I hear what you're saying about let's get a plan on exactly what does it look like. We've talked about it. It'd be good for us to formulate that. What are the first things we're going to do? How the funds come in? What does that look like? Design. We obviously have to do the design first and bring back to the community. So I think those are.
As a regional church, which has some symbiotic and oversight responsibility, in part has been driving this issue, saying sell or become viable, because you're doing good mission, you're a small community which you can't afford to do both mission and be small. And so they have already, in essence, reviewed possibilities and very much signed off on this plan as a way forward to the church maybe the presence of Christ in this part of the city and enhance the community.
Yeah, just having some experience on renovations of older buildings and churches. It's a process to actually finalize what exactly you're doing. You have to determine how much money do you actually have. You have to determine, the condition of the roof, what you would change the roof to, what you would change the siding to. Then you have to review things like the insulation. Typically what takes precedence is public safety inside, are all your life safety systems up to code. So I mean, there's kind of an evaluation. What I've seen that's the most successful, I mean, and it's a process. It's sitting down, understanding the needs of the churches. It's coming up with, you price out all your different options. What's the heating system? What's the plumbing system? What's the exterior? How's the exiting, life safety systems? So it's quite a process, but I mean, there are people working on it that have good experience with that, because you really want to maximize the value when you get those funds.
Deb Barker, everybody, this is Deb Barker. She's the head of the Morgan Community Association.
Hi there. I'm going to take off the Morgan hat and put on another hat. Is this building eligible to be a historic landmark?
Great question.
We have not looked at it in length. And the reason is because the restrictions that go with that can become quite cumbersome in terms of the church doing what it does at the park, for example. And so the usage of the building and the ability to use it as a part of our mission, we just backed away from that because of all those restrictions. We're not certainly averse to that. We can take a strong look at that. The second reason is when we do refacing, we want to do a combination of retaining the historicity of this great building, but at the same time blend it in with the neighborhood more than it is now. So we want some freedom. We would not have that freedom if we simply made it a historical monument, in essence. Yes.
So I'm so glad you walked in, Deb, because I wanted to get everybody clear on you said that you were going to come in April to the MOCA meeting and ask for the neighborhood to approve this project. So I want to just make sure that if you have an interest in this project, you please show up at that meeting, because we don't have paid memberships. So we don't have people who, pay and we represent them. Our whole role is to be stewards of the neighborhood plan, and when we know there's a project going on inside the urban village, we make sure neighbors are at the table for the discussion. And so that is who should be there for that vote. And if you don't show up, whoever's at the meeting is going to vote on it, right? So please do show up and help if you have, and you might have some answers by then on some of the questions, help make sure that your voice is heard about this project.
So this property is within the Morgan Street Urban Village?
It is, and that's why he's forced into that comp plan step, which I'm going to go back and make comments.
42nd Street and
I knew this would come up.
or is
Here.
it
Yeah, it's Juno. It's really a weird picture. It's, here's Morgan, here's Juno, and it kind of comes out a little bit, and the furthest south, right here, is Gatewood. It encompasses Gatewood, so it's Juno to Gatewood, basically.
Where are those meetings held?
I'm sorry, what?
Where are the local meetings held?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. 7 o'clock, April 16th or 15th, whatever the Wednesday is. 7 o'clock at the Kennedy. There's a community room downstairs.
Will you send that out?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And that would depend if this topic is on our current agenda, depending on where you guys are with the process. Because we'll meet in April, then we'll meet again in October.
They're going to want to vote in April so that they can hit the May deadline for the comp plan amendment.
I think we already talked about it already.
16th, April 16th.
Does anybody here feel like they'd like to have another meeting? And, we'd be happy to facilitate another meeting before April 16th here at the church. If it's a small group, if it's a big group, we're happy to have another meeting just to we can go through and rehash what we've heard and have folks come back. I mean, would that be beneficial for anybody who's here? Anybody at all feel like they would like us to? We definitely know what we need to come back with and present, but we're happy to have another meeting if anybody.
This was very helpful, really helpful.
Terry and Chuck have both been really open to talking with anyone in the neighborhood as well. So I mean, I think this is a really small representation of our neighborhood. And so I would just think, like, as you talk to other neighbors and hear things about, like, there is a past, send that feedback. Like, there are enough people that want to come to another meeting, or contact Pastor Sean or Pastor Terry and say, hey, there's more people with questions, because I think information is key, and distribute, trying to find the best way to get the word out is really important. So it's more, as you're talking to your neighbors, because we're talking to our neighbors, they have questions. Like,
I think it's
Sean
me
is so
for
available.
coffee, so if you want to sit down.
Well, I admit I have a little kind of apprehension about how this will look and how big the park is versus how big the houses really will be. I have a hard time kind of visualizing that. But I also think that the church is a really good neighbor here in our neighborhood, and I wouldn't want to lose that. So I am really supportive of doing what we can do to keep the church here and keep this community here, because I think we've been really great neighbors here in the time that we've been here.
This is the only way we're going to get it painted, I guess.
Susan feels a mean thing.
I was thinking about how many bake sales would have to happen in order to fund the renovation?
We've tried to get involved with fundraising, but it hasn't worked out. You guys got the top part done, and then nothing after that. Yeah. We were all excited when we started the painting and stopped.
So is there then a work plan or a work program that you have, or you're going to be having it by the next meeting?
We'll commit to getting the work plan, and we'll distribute out a work plan. I think we need to commit to getting something out. We have one, a loose one internally in our LLC documents of how we're going to deal with design and potential ways we can deal with construction.
But it may not be all of yours, I think the neighbors want to also understand the second part of the building, existing building.
Absolutely. So I think Dave was saying, we owe that to the community. So we'll put something together, and we'll email that out prior to the April 16th meeting, and get that out in the, Deb.
Cindy, that's Deb.
I mean,
Twins from another mother. Yeah. Well, one thing that we've always found helpful, and that's kind of why I was poking at what's the lot size. But if you know basically the dimensions of the house, which it looks like you do because you got constrained by the tree and stuff, you go take string and you stake it out there.
Yeah.
Because that is a great visual way for people to understand. Because like in your fly-through, I was always marking where the telephone pole lines were. I'm going, they must have put that in there for me to understand when I see it in the real world how high it is. So if you can do that footprint for them, I think that would help a lot.
Oh, that is a good idea. I like that.
That and when border property lines would be where you have intersection areas.
Yeah.
You guys can do a lot. In fact, don't you have some sort of, other than your movie wall, or maybe even your movie wall, to have a little kiosk with this information on it, where people, as they're walking by, can information.
We can do it all right out there on the site. I mean, we can just put it out there, spray paint it down, or we can take it down, or do something like that. I think that's a really good idea, and I think that will help people visualize a lot better. We can do the footprints of the houses and like the tree wells and some different things like that.
And the movie wall can be moved to front space as well as a kiosk. I think it's pretty close to where it is anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of the visual.
Just as an ability to visualize.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a really great idea. And we do owe a list. We'll put together a list of all the different repairs and in general priority of what we're thinking of too. That'd be good.
And I also heard, I think we need to draft the comp plan amendment itself and get it distributed.
Right, we're going to get it in with that.
There's one other aspect that after you do the seismic upgrade, after you do the external, after you do the safety issues, depending on total resources available, we have an incredible basement that could become a very awesome community center. It really could be.
Is it accessible?
Yes.
Yes.
And very, and it, you know, stage off the front would be like that as opposed to the high stage that's there now. Just, if you look around there, that whole thing with the play area that is now a Sunday school room, but with glass walls, so that if you're having coffee evenings on a regular basis, you can watch your kids and still, it's an incredible space. And that's in our heart too.
As well as Pastor Terry's talked to us, we have an emergency communication hub, disaster preparedness. And he and I are talking about, like that park is going to be a really horrible place to be standing after a disaster. I'd much rather be in his nice warm basement.
Yeah, the trees won't get
Yeah.
Great.
One of the things I think, when we bought our house on this street 10 years ago, and we're looking around at the neighborhood, this building, not knowing its occupants, was almost a deterrent to buying on the street because of the condition. You just wonder about it as a question. And I just feel like it was a deterrent. It's turned out to be a community that was such an unexpected enhancement of our neighborhood, and that I really appreciate having this here. And I was thinking today that one of the things that I think makes Seattle as a large city so unique is that we have these neighborhoods, these residential neighborhoods within the urban core of the city, and each of them have their quirks. Fremont is the center of the universe, right? We each have our little things, and I just think it's now, having lived here, I view the presence of the church in the building, the green space, and the attitude of the church in terms of what Pastor Terry and Pastor Sean offer to the community, and how open the doors are. We've had neighborhood crime watch meetings here. We've solved issues in our community because of their welcoming and just wanting to be a presence in this community, and opening the park for community events in the summer, and really just, I feel like it brings so much value to our neighborhood and making it unique. And I just think, and it's interesting that I was talking to another mom when our kids were playing in the park late last fall, and she kind of said the same thing. When we first bought what they were bought away, we were wondering about that building, and now we love coming over here and letting our kids just run around. And fortunately, my kids, it's like they're home, they run and they still candy from Pastor Terry's desk all the time. That's right. But I just think it's one of the things that makes our neighborhood unique, and I think that by enhancing how it appears visually, I think this potentially can make the park look like this is a place where people can bring their kids, and the buildings are cleaned up, there's new, well-looked homes along the perimeter. I just think it will enhance the warmth and give a physical representation of what I think is inside this community.
Make it as beautiful outside as it is inside.
Absolutely. And I really don't want to see it go away and get sold to the highest bidder, because that terrifies me. I don't want to have to move.
Another detail, our regional government church understands that the funds are for the capitalization of making this campus come alive. They understand it's not for other missional purposes. They're clear on that.
And can we, if we get some of these additional documents prepared in good time before the April 16th meeting, can we send them
Oh, yeah.
to you, Cindy, and you can distribute them out, and we can get some
Put them up on our
information out?
website and stuff, yeah.
Excellent. This is helpful. This is really helpful for us. It's good to get feedback. I think there's several great ideas that have been brought up that will help help us in just moving the project forward. So I really appreciate everybody's time in coming tonight and meeting. And please stay, have some cookies, have some coffee. If you guys have any other questions, please come and talk to us. And we're happy to talk more.